Welcome to Dr. Jeffrey Roth's Looking Good and Feeling Great podcast, live from Las Vegas, with his co-host, Darrell Craig Harris.
Welcome back to our Looking Good, Feeling Great podcast. How are you doing today, Dr. Roth?
I'm doing fabulous. This is Dr. Jeffrey Roth, your board-certified plastic surgeon here in Las Vegas, Nevada, and we're at it again for the podcast. So they haven't thrown us off the air yet, so we're just still rolling with it.
Yeah, it's a beautiful day in Vegas. It's starting to warm up, thank God.
Yes, so I think everybody down here is a little bit, tired of the gloom and doom. And again, I say that, and in 2 weeks it'll be 120 degrees, and we'll be begging for,
Yeah, I know. I always remind myself of that. I'm like, it's cold. Well, it's not cold compared to Michigan, but
right. No, 100%. All my East Coast guys are going to give me hate mail. I understand this thing. They do a strange thing here in Las Vegas with the pools, and the pools are very, very big deals here. And fun fact, my late great godfather, Jack Hopel, used to run the Stardust pool back in the day. And he had a few interesting things going on. He was very into transcendental meditation and very into all that kind of stuff, but still he liked to make, a little bit of money, and he would make enough money during the summertime to actually then go and live in Mexico for 9 months out of the year.
That's a good plan.
So it's, not bad, right? And number one. Number two, back in the day, and we're talking about the 50s and 60s, right? So back in the day, they used to have those big Eisenhower silver dollar coins. You remember those, the dollars? Now, I'm sure they take too much silver. They were real silver. Too much money to make. But he would have this metal trash can, like a wastebasket trash can. And so when you got your towel out and everything else like that, and the pool guy got you all set up, they would often tip with those silver dollars, because those silver dollars, you could use them in the slot machines in casinos. Yep. And you'd put the silver dollars in, everything else like that. And then, chunk, 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 all this change would come out. And again, you would play with actual change. Nowadays, it's slips and paper and all that.
You kind of missed the sound of the falling in the
100%. And there are some, I think, that still do that. And
they have the fake sound.
Yes, they have a fake sound now, right? So which is right. But my grandma, she used to go ahead and she was a penny or nickel slot. And her hands would be like black, like a coal miner's, with all of the change. And you just have the change buckets. Remember, people walk around the change bucket. Anyway, and they would tip you with a silver dollar, and he would walk over to where the little hut is and then throw the silver dollar into the can so it made a big noise. Bang. And so people would wake up and go, oh yeah, I got to tip these guys. Okay. Yeah, and so there's that. But anyway, so it's a big deal here, and it was always cruel to me because there's guys and gals there, and the girls are gorgeous, right? And it's Vegas. And yes,
you're working on a lot of the old
we see a lot. Yeah, we see a lot of that here, but those the folks there can make a lot of money over the season, and then often they'll go ahead and move inside to the clubs, etc. So but what's cruel, I think, is they have tryouts or auditions usually like in the first week of January, like right after Christmas,
right? And
so these poor girls, they can't really enjoy
the
Thanksgiving, right? Else. They really gotta hit it hard, because auditions are coming up in January, and then pools open in March. And so the interesting thing is it was snowing here in Las Vegas a couple of weeks ago. And again, my East Coast guys would call that Tuesday.
Yeah, it's kind of snow.
It sticks a little
for an hour.
It's a little. And so the memes, of course, in Las Vegas is, pool season opens in 1 week, and it's snowing.
I know.
So the weather here has been a bit bipolar as late. So hopefully, it's getting a little bit better. But thank God that a lot of rain came to California, and a lot of that drought was alleviated. And but we need the snowpack on the western side of the Rockies. To
it helps our Lake Mead water levels
a lot. We need that.
So the old mob guys won't be showing up.
There's that.
That's sort of an insider joke.
Stop looking for bodies.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I didn't see a thing.
Exactly.
Yeah, didn't see a thing.
So today's topic is plastic surgery and social media, which is a big topic and something that we deal with on a daily basis.
Yes.
The ethics around that, how you deal with the best practices. So let's talk about that.
Yeah, like anything else, it can be a good thing and bad thing. It's a double-edged sword, right? So one is to get information out to as many people as you can. And if it's good information, if it's coming from the ASPS or ASAPs, it's good stuff. And there's a few guys and gals that are really doing a great job on that on a lot of the different social media platforms. And then there are the others. So which are prone to hyperbole or prone to really making funny claims, et cetera, et cetera. So again, like any other advertising, if you will, you have to look with a jaundiced eye at that, and then check out the guy or gal that's doing this. Are they board certified by the American Board of Plastic Surgeons?
Right.
Do they have hospital privileges to do what they're doing, whatever that may be? And we've been talking about this for as long as I've been talking about plastic surgery. Is you really have to do your due diligence and make sure that the guy or gal that you're going to really has been trained well and knows his stuff and can handle things in emergency and all that stuff. So with all that said, is go ahead and take a look, and it's not just pretty pictures, but it's basically your health and sometimes your life about all this stuff. So that's step one. And then we talked a little bit about ethics and such, because we like to think that we're ethical as best we can be. And by that, the ASPS and the Board of Plastic Surgery.
Right. Explain ASPS, what that is.
Yeah. So there's the American Board of Plastic Surgery, and those are the folks that test you when you get done and kind of make sure that you're safe to go out and practice. And then you have continuing medical education units, which means you always have to be educated in reading and all that stuff. And so there's a program, and every 10 years you get recertified and testing at various places along the timeline. So those folks are the ones that say if you're board certified or not. Okay, so that's number one. And their authority comes from the American Board of Medical Subspecialties, which has been around for a long time, and it's really arduous standards. Okay, so that's that part. And then there's a couple of groups, the American Society of Plastic Surgeons, which all of the members are board certified plastic surgeons, and those folks, we have meetings, and again, they have continuing medical education things, and they sometimes will put out ethical advisories. There's also the American ASAPs, the American Society for Aesthetic Plastic Surgeons, and those are, again, board certified plastic surgeons that really specialize in aesthetic medicine. Right. And they also put out advisories, have medical education forums, et cetera, et cetera. So those are the folks that I really look for really what's happening, what's safe,
guidance,
et cetera, et cetera. And ethical guidance stuff. Now, according to those folks, yes, one, you can advertise. Two is we plastic surgeons take a lot of pictures, right? And they a lot of people make fun of us in residency. They say, oh, you guys are really just general surgeons with cameras, right? So, and back in the day...
Well, documentation's super important.
Yeah, when 100 years ago, when I was a resident, we were the only ones running around with cameras. And, of course, the cameras were the big, Nikon,
right,
the things that you're running around with.
Old film.
So, Kodachrome slides film, and you had to send it to
Rolling
Jersey.
Old school.
You had to send it to Jersey, and it'd come back in 2 weeks, right? And, et cetera, which kind of, if you had a presentation to make in 1 week, you're like, oh God, then you had to run it down and get it special. Anyway, now you have this thing on your hip, everybody's got one, and then you can take really good photos with. Right. When I was at UCSF, they rotate us everywhere. And once I was at the VA, and I get this page from the vascular room, and I'm like, hey guys, how we doing? Because sometimes they need you to come in and swing a flap or, who knows what. And they said, no, we're fine. Everything's right. And as a matter of fact, we found this really interesting vascular and anatomy anomaly that we've never seen before. And we know you guys carry cameras. Can you come here and take a picture? And the year was, 2000. Right. Yeah. And I said, yeah, okay. So I went down there and took a bunch of, Kodachromes and sent them back to them, and they made a presentation about it. So yeah, you can use photos, you can use befores and afters, but you can't touch them. And
which is something that because I handle some of that for the practice, right. And that's something we've talked about quite a bit. Is there's no blemish removing, there's none of that.
And another funny story with that is when you very first come out, and for me that was 20 years ago, how that happened. So you're building your what we used to call a brag book, right? This was before computers. And you'd have like this this book of your befores and afters, and people would go ahead and just it was like an old photo book with the saran on top of it. I know I'm dating myself. Anyways, so you're like, oh, I gotta get some good photos and all that. And so this gal, I think she was from Montana, a very nice gal. She came in and we did liposuction, and she got a great result, home run. I'm like, oh boy, this is gonna be great for the brag book. And so she just happened to call and she says, I never come to Vegas, but I'm here for a blah, blah, blah. I'm leaving town. Can I come by? Yeah, come on by. So it came in and she was a home run. Everything's great. I'm like, oh, this is great. So we go ahead and we take the photos, et cetera, et cetera. And she says, okay, bye. We'll see you. Okay, great. And so at the end of the day, you come back. You're busy. You're running around. At the end of the day, like, oh, yeah, I'm going to go through the photos. And so she must have went to the bathroom right before she had the photo because we did her flanks, right? So she had that red ring that you get when you like sit on the potty. You know?
That can happen.
And I'm like, because it was a great photo, but you couldn't use it.
Can't use it.
Right. So you're just like, so easy come, easy go. So since then we've had a couple extra more photos. We're all right.
Yeah.
But that's the thing. So the befores and afters, and in fact, photos and plastic surgeons, the reason why we use photos is because it's a lot easier to show a photo worth 1,000 words, right? Then you say, well, she's got a 2.5 centimeter lesion, 3 millimeters from the lateral canthal fold, or you just send a picture. We get beaten/trained in residency to take these standardized photos. And if you look on our website and stuff, you'll see it all has a blue background and there's, certain,
parameters.
Parameters, et cetera, et cetera. And so board certification in plastic surgery is a two-part thing. One is the didactic, all of the learning and what does methotrexate do and anatomy and all that jazz. Great. You pass that. And then the second one is they want a few of your cases. They want 5 cases and they have another 40 to go through. And with those cases, they look at everything from how you dictate to how you're thinking and what you're billing and are you ethical and building your pictures. And you go to this place to sit for these boards. And 4 guys got sent home for bad photos. They don't even get to sit for the boards. And so that's why we take it so seriously. So that's plastic surgery and photos and why we're so crazy about it. And what I do with the photos, and again, it's a little bit geeky, but what I will do is I'll print them out after the patient leaves, and then I'll draw them, and I'll figure out angles and where this should go, and it's really kind of a game plan. So that's important. So.
Well, and it's a great use of modern technology, like you said. I mean, it's nice to have that visual.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And some folks have computer systems and all that kind of stuff. Now, there are some real shutterbugs that happen to be plastic surgeons, and there was this terrific article, I think it was in the White Journal, PRS, about basically how your cell phone camera is lying to you. And by that, they did the Apple system and they did Samsung system or Android system. And they basically really got into, focal length and all the stuff that I have no idea. I mean, because you're a professional photographer and you work with, the Sports Illustrated and NFL and all that stuff. But they really delved into the details about how there's a certain percentage of distortion when you take a selfie, et cetera, which is really interesting, 1. 2, we here in our office have seen that a couple times, and it's usually the tip of the nose, because with that camera at 1 arm distance away, with that angle and with that light, the nose...
The tip will be really sharp.
It looks more bulbous than it's supposed to be. And so people come in and they go, oh, doc, I need my nose done. And when I'm looking, I'm like, no. And we actually then shoot with our own, standardized camera, and then we go ahead and we hand it to them like, no, that's really how your nose works. And they go, oh.
Well, that's actually, too, part of that. I mean, even related to social media somewhat, but Zoom meetings and Zoom camera stuff, which is something that I'm dealing with that personally. I'm not used to looking at my face, and all of a sudden I'm like, oh, I've got more chins than I thought I did. And, and that all, and also, too, I mean, related to video for social media, which is something that that's a really kind of still a new phenomenon where people are seeing themselves and they're noticing things that they would have never noticed before.
100%. No, we talk to patients and we take photos, frontal, 3/4 views, side views, and back. And some people, when's the last time you took a picture of your back, right? Like never, right? So, but if you're here for the liposuction of the flanks, they go, wow, is that how I look? Or is that my true profile? Or... et cetera, et cetera. So people see themselves in the mirror day after day after day, but then sometimes when you hold an actual photo to them, like, oh, who's that? Oh, that's actually you. And then we go ahead and delve into the pluses and minuses and all of that. So that's just the photographic portion of it. And I had one other super gal, smart, a lawyer, the whole thing, and she says, hey, when I take a picture, my left eyebrow always goes up. I'm like, oh, that's interesting. I said, so she gave me all these photos. And I'm like, And I said, and I took pictures of her and her eyebrow was fine. I said, show me how you do your photo. And she took it in her left hand and put it up above her left eyebrow and looked up at it. And I said, well, there's your problem right there is you look up and you raise your eyebrow when you're looking up. You put the camera in front of you. And we took a couple pictures and her eyebrow was okay.
I know. It's funny. It's like obvious, but not obvious.
So with that, you really have to temper what people are seeing. The other thing is what you're seeing on social media and Instagram and everything else like that, unless it's from a board-certified plastic surgeon befores and afters, now these folks are using filters on top of filters and Photoshop and everything else. And we've had this discussion before as you talk to Cindy Crawford, who's gorgeous, by the way, met her twice.
And she's actually, talking about her, she's been posting a lot of photos with no makeup.
100%, because
which I think is great.
Which is great. I think it's great. And for one, she's gorgeous, right? And then two, but she says, look, if I have a photo shoot, I get ready for 2 weeks in advance. She says, I'm a mom. I have curlers in my hair when I roll out of bed in the morning. I don't look like that.
Right.
And then she says it's 2 hours of makeup and it's 2 hours of lighting and the best photographers in the world. And then they Photoshop it. Right. So she said, look, I don't look like me. That's not when I roll out. And so sometimes we'll have that discussion with, especially, your 17-year-olds, like, hey, I want to look like her. Like, well, she doesn't look like her.
Exactly. And that's a very important topic. I mean, actually, we have International Women's Day today.
Absolutely. So shout out to all the women out there who are holding it down. God bless you guys.
Exactly. But I mean, that's a very important topic in terms of plastic surgery and teens and what they're seeing out in the world. Like, a lot of what they see is not 100% real.
Right. So, most of it isn't, especially when they're trying to sell you something. Now, whether they're selling you something, whether it's a product, a makeup, a can of soda, whatever the case may be, a car, or nowadays people are selling their likeness, meaning they want to be influencers because then they can go ahead and monetize that, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So, and some of them are great and they're giving out great advice, et cetera, and some not so much. And like anything else, caveat emptor, you really have to do your due diligence and figure out who's telling the truth to you. And some folks do that really well. I mean, the Kardashians, we were just talking about that. Mom Kardashian and Ryan Seacrest are geniuses.
I know, that's the thing, because people sometimes they'll deride them or whatever, but you can't deny the power.
It's hard to completely social media driven and that phenomenon driven. And so a lot of people are trying to emulate that success, but they don't have the powerhouse of a Ryan Seacrest or a money and all that to Mom Jenner to get that on. So that's part of what we talk about and deal with here at Las Vegas Plastic Surgery, in as much as is not just, okay, can you do things, but, kind of the why, why you're really doing this thing and do you really need to do it, et cetera, et cetera. And more of our patients are getting younger. I mean, Botox was 40 and 50-year-olds, and now it's 30-year-olds, and now you get some 20-year-olds coming in here more for preventative and stuff.
And that kind of comes into the whole ethical question. Is that what's the appropriate age? Is there an appropriate age? I don't know. Well, how do you deal with it?
I think it's basically an individual type of thing. And again, I spend arguably too much time with patients, if you ask these consultants and such. It's because I really do I ask that question, and we turn people away, especially some young folks that aren't ready for it or have unrealistic expectations. Not just young folks, everybody. You know what I mean? Or medically, it's not going to help them. And so, we're the guy that says no. And some other guys and gals may have a different opinion. That's okay. But basically, that we kind of go on a case-by-case basis as far as that goes. But that's a trend that we've been seeing. And to your point also, we've been seeing more and more people come in on the Zoom thing. But be careful out there in social media land, and you go ahead and check out that person and really make sure that they kind of are who they say they are. And I think that's important.
And that also comes into the area of checking out the reviews, and that's important. I think it's good to see what other people are saying about the doctor, and also too, what's your thought on TV doctors, especially like there's some very popular plastic surgery shows. I know some of the folks, and some of them are board certified, some are not. What's your kind of feeling about that in general?
I think it's okay if done right. For example, I think the botched show, et cetera, I think it makes a couple good points. And sure, it's Hollywood. kids, so they're going to go for the most spectacular, kind of. And if you look at it through that lens of, okay, they're going to go for the the wow before and after. Right. Oh, okay, sure. But I think some of the underlying things that are good is that, yeah, it's a contact sport. People can get hurt. Okay, so that's one. And then two, if you notice, most of the folks that got hurt weren't going to guys and gals who are board-certified plastic surgeons, et cetera. So, okay, with that said, the other thing, too, is it's not I'm going to go ahead and get my surgery Friday and be back at work and water skiing on Monday, right? They actually said, okay, well, yeah, this is going to be a year project and et cetera, et cetera. And we're going to go ahead and redo this and redo that and and everything else like that. And we're going to see you for a year, and then we're going to judge the result that we have. So I think that that's good because, again, I wish I had a magic wand to heal up the body faster, and they're working on those things, but they haven't come to their fruition. But I think it's good that they are actually saying that, hey, your body's going to take some time to heal this up, one. And then two is you have to take care of your body during the healing process, not to mess up the stuff that you just did. And we really see this, especially in hand surgery. And once upon a time, I was a hand surgeon. But you can be the best hand surgeon in the world. I was not. But you do this great surgery. But if the patient doesn't go to occupational therapy and doesn't squeeze the ball and doesn't do the thing, it's not going to work. We see that especially in hand surgery because it's so technically based, and the hand is such a beautiful, complex thing. But we see it in all of the surgeries that we do. So, and compliance with instructions is a big thing. You gotta not smoke. You gotta eat protein. You gotta, massage the stuff you need to massage. So all of those things.
Right. Well, I mean, I'm sure that it's better. You get a better result if you're going in the first time versus having to repair something that was already damaged by somebody else.
Yeah, revision surgery is always an interesting thing, and oftentimes. It happens to everybody. It happens to me, and sometimes we get folks coming in like, "Ugh, I should have listened, before." That's a typical kind of thing. Sometimes
they try to save money and they
go or whatever. Or hey, I had whatever done, and then I went water skiing on day 3 or whatever the case may be. So, and again, sometimes the patient did everything absolutely right, and it's just. It didn't work out, and you got to go fix it. So, not to blame patients or point fingers and stuff, but if you want to go ahead and get the best result, then try to stick with the program. And to your point about social media and checking folks out, not only just the web page, because again, you can make a beautiful web page with beautiful pictures and all that stuff, but then also. I like to encourage folks to see 3 board-certified plastic surgeons before making a decision. It drives my office manager crazy when I do that. But true, because I think you have to like the doctor and then you have to like the staff because you're going to be interacting with them.
Yeah, there needs to be chemistry there.
Right? And you got to like what they're saying and what their options are, and you got to, and that sort of thing. And then ask questions like, okay, if there's a problem, do you have privileges to admit me to the hospital? What happens in the middle of the night, et cetera. So ask, and guys aren't offended, and guys and gals are not offended by that. Because we too play what if for a living, and we have a plan A and B and C and Q and all of that, and that's part of the training that we have. Getting back to the social media stuff, I think that if we can get good information out there, and to your point, there are some good shows out there. There are some that are really just kind of glorified advertisements. Okay, fine. For the latest,
we've talked about them, but we won't name names.
Right. So for the latest machine that goes whiz or bang or lights up, or other folks that have the newest and greatest and latest. But if you really get down to it, it's like anything else. Can they do the job?
Right. Yeah. And I mean, ultimately, the patient outcome is the most important thing.
Absolutely.
At the end of the day.
Well, it's paramount. I mean, you can have a beautiful office, and you can wear designer suits and all that kind of stuff, but the rubber really hits the road, when the scalpel goes on the skin, and that's the important part. And then, but before that is setting yourself up for success and avoiding or trying to avoid issues before you get to the operating room, and then afterwards going ahead and making sure, like we just talked about, that there's perioperative care and there's access to perioperative care, and that the patient has incentive to follow that to get the best results. So again, it's all about putting your ducks in a row to try to get yourself the best result.
Right. Yeah. And social media, just the biggest and most important thing is don't always believe what you see. Do your research, do your due diligence. It's hard to say, and make sure that you're getting the best doctor for your situation and what you want to accomplish.
And it may be different from, your mom to you to your cousin. I mean, everybody's got different personalities and different goals and aspirations. And so my thing is, by all means, talk to your regular doctor about it, talk to family, go look on the websites for ASPS and ASAPs as well. And then go from there. But like I says, I think it's here to stay. Social media is not going anywhere. It's going to change. I mean, we both lived through the days of, Friendster, and MySpace is still around, exactly. and all that stuff. And then, who knows what's going to happen with TikTok and all that. But it's going to ebb and flow and change, but it's going to be tough to put the genie back in the bottle now that everybody has this on their hips, and it's very entertaining. And I myself get, entertained by that kind of stuff all the time.
Right.
But when it comes down to, okay, I'm going to make a decision about my health or have something changed, then that's a different category. Then you got to step it. Then you got to step it up.
Yeah, due diligence, do it. Make sure you know what you're getting yourself into. That's very important. Speaking of social media, and all that, how can people find us?
Oh, we're all over the place. So yeah, our cornerstone. Yeah, again, no kidding. Our cornerstone is the website, of course, which is www.jjrothmd.com. That's JJROTHMD.com. And there, I think, is a treasure trove of befores and afters, like we talked about. I think useful information. We're trying to put a lot more information on there so people can use that as a resource. So that's that part of it. We are on YouTube. We're on Instagram. We're on Twitter, as well as Facebook. And so we're
TikTok
and TikTok, the aforementioned TikTok.
Yeah, so it's a long list.
So yeah. And like I said, it's always something. But having said that, we're on all of that. So if you like any of those stations or outlets or whatever like that, we're there. And then you've already found us here on the radio / podcast. So if you want us to feature anything, or if you have questions about anything, by all means, reach out to us at the office. We still answer the phone too, or give us a email. There's a contact page on the website as well. So yeah, we're easy to get to and get to find.
Yeah, please check out the podcast description. We have all links and ways of contacting us, social media links, everything is all there. And thank you so much for joining us. Please like and subscribe. We appreciate that, so you can hear our future and past episodes. And thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so very much, and we'll see you guys soon.
Have a great day.
Thank you so much for joining us. For further information, please visit the podcast website link for Dr. Jeffrey Roth. See you next time.